Hello, everyone, and you've reached the Trill podcast yet again. I'm sorry
Okay.
to see that you've wandered in the wrong direction, but while you're here, if you'd like to listen to three lean professionals chatting about topics broadly related to OPEX, lean, continuous improvement, Six Sigma, etc., and the odd bit of leadership thrown in, then stick around for the next 20 to 30 minutes. I'm John D. We've got Russell Watkins. Say hi, Russell.
Hello.
And we've got Alan Lovian.
Hello, Al.
And Al will be making no sense because Albus Oil is sponsored today's event. And he is high as a kite.
On Older Soil. Yeah. Although I think he's got a get out of jail card, John, because I think you've just announced three guests I didn't know about. You're saying there's three lean professionals coming on.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. We're
exactly.
hoping to meet
We've got to
some
think of
for
another description to describe
his
us.
channel.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, last time we did one of these sessions, we thought we'd talk about a particular topic, but we ended up talking about the highway code. So, in an attempt to set off in a particular direction today, I'm going to go to Russell and say, Russell, I think you got a concept that something had triggered you on that maybe we want to chat around.
We have indeed, John. So I'll frame it for you, and then maybe I can toss it across to you and Al to tell me your experiences,
Okay.
and then we'll weave something from there. So. Um, Way back, way back. I think the three of us in different guises have been talking about the 70-20-10 rule, about how do you get people
Mm,
engaged, more people engaged in doing lean, and there are various numbers attached, but the principle is, look, 10% of people are bang up for improving their work. 10% of people at the back end are, as long as I draw breath, I'm not going to do it. I'm here to clock in, clear off. And then there's 80% in the middle who are sick of initiatives, no point getting on this bus because there'll be another one along, and they're there to be won.
hmm
Now, we normally talk about the 10 at the top and the 80 and how to pull people along. But I was in a client last week. We're doing some team leader training, and they were telling me about two team leaders who they'd almost written off as in being anti-lean. But they hadn't, they persevered, and now they are the greatest adherents in that business. They promote it, they're bang up for it, and there is nothing like the zealousness of somebody who has been converted
hmm
from a difficult place
Mhm.
to push it forward. And it got me thinking. I use two phrases quite a lot, and one is watering plastic plants in the hope they'll grow, which is a Wombats lyric. And it's hard to wake somebody who's pretending to be asleep. So I started to reflect on the times that I've too prematurely said, no, that person's not up for it.
mm
You need to find an elegant way that they can deselect, they can self deselect.
mm.
And I've got it wrong. So my question to you is, how long should you persevere?
It's a very interesting question, isn't it? Because I can't be wrong. Um, I can think of a couple of individuals that definitely bring this sort of story to mind. So one is way on back, probably 20 years ago, and we used to do quite a lot of activities that we would loosely call master classes, where we take a focal area or part of the business or a process, and then you put a mixed team together and you'd walk them through some training that helped them to do their own diagnostic on the area, and then you do some improvements with various tools, follow it up, etc. And it was spread out over about 3 months, typically, I guess. And I did a series of activities in one particular client, a tough client. Um, and I was always in the habit, and I still believe it's the right thing. In amongst the mix of people I work with, can you give me, I won't use the expression I used at the time, but the most mouthy, potentially problematic person in terms of moving things forward, stuck in the mud, wherever, I'll have them on the
Yeah.
team because it's almost a case of keep your enemies close. But um, let's at least hear that side of the story rather than ignore it, pretend it's not going to happen. Have a group of people that you infuse, and then you're going to send them back into the real world, and you're not there, and they're going to get ground down by this
Yeah.
influential, vocal um, negativity.
Well, and that person might actually have a point.
Yes. So I encouraged, and I was told at the time, you really don't want him. I said, no, 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 I really, really do. And I like people. So no matter who it is, I'm going to find a way to engage. So I'm not scared of having that person with me. But I must admit, on this particular occasion, I was starting to doubt my logic
Right.
bringing that person in. Um, that actually was an interesting experience because we went through a masterclass that took 3 months, and at the end of it, I was still convinced maybe I shouldn't have bitten that off.
Mm.
But the company got big benefits from what they did. There was a lot of people who were still very infused. They said, "Oh, let's do another one." And lo and behold, they put together this team for a different area and one familiar face, and it was the same fella.
Really?
Yeah. And so I went off and sort of said, "Oh, has he snuck in? Have you told him to come in or whatever?" Um, and they said, "Well, he's come to us and said, yeah, this stuff will never work. Uh, but I would like to be involved because I quite enjoyed it," which they thought was massive progress.
Yeah, well, it is.
So we did the activity. And again, I've got to say, second time round, really didn't help the process. But, I felt like there was a small victory there. There was a very large interval then, and I got a call back to the company. It was from the individual, and the individual's
Ah,
role had changed two or three times in the interim, which was probably 2 years. And he was the one wanting to do more of it. And not only that, when I went in and chatted and talked to the people around the business, subsequent to me moving on, he turned into the evangelist for
right.
lean thinking because one of his hang-ups was in a quite old, traditional business. He was the union rep. Now, I'm not dissing union reps, I'm not dissing unions, but add a 1970s comedic version of a union rep, everybody out. Um,
Hmm.
you wouldn't be far away from charactering or cartooning this individual. And what it helped remind me of is there are so few saboteurs that you come across in real life. There are so few
Yes.
people who genuinely don't want things to work. What they've got is their own well-meant intent or worries.
Yes.
In his case, this was a very interesting fella, very clever, very bright. He really was concerned about the welfare of the rest of the workforce. He was all that was best about unions, and he was not prepared to throw in an even smile on something that he thought may be connected with people losing jobs, people
Yeah.
being minimized in any way. So I think sometimes you've just got to go with it and literally never give up. Do you keep investing effort in that individual? Maybe not. You
Hmm.
know, go where the pull is, but
Yeah.
don't shut them
But
out. That would,
no,
and I'll only use that one example because I've rambled on too long, but I've got another.
no. What, John? We'll come to the other example in a minute, and
Yeah,
we'll go across to L. It's interesting. So I think more and more recently, people aren't anti-lean; they're just for something else that's not aligned.
yeah, yeah,
And there's a difference between being anti something and being for something else
yeah.
that might actually become aligned.
Mm,
So the reason why you hang on, why you keep persevering is interesting as well. If they've got a lot of product and process knowledge and you don't want to
mm,
lose them,
mm,
Is that a good enough reason to put up with a darker presence,
mm,
if indeed they are a darker presence?
mm. So I think
It's
my
really
only
interesting.
mistake in that was not actively trying to understand the reasons for the
Yeah.
negativity or the resistance earlier. But okay, if you ask it direct, you're not going to get good answers typically because people
And
hide.
we're also wired, John. I alluded to it at the start. We're wired to take the 10% who are up for it and use them to convince through actions and
Yeah.
engagement the other 70, 80%. Um, and you worry about, if I focus in the dark corner, then that darkness spreads to the whole
Yeah.
activity. But I think you're onto something. We have to find a way to have the conversation, and perhaps it's a quiet word before or after, or during a break and a brew, you
Mm,
have a quiet word. I don't know.
mm,
I suffered the same thing. I haven't inquired early enough.
mm,
How about you, Al?
Mine, my experiences are very, very similar to John's, mate, in the sense of when we were at IF, rightly or wrongly, I always had ingrained in my mind that going back to the point, if you got 10 people, one's really up for it no matter what you say, one's really a dead set against it, and everybody, the meat and the sandwich is up for change. Okay. But what it depends on is who's got the loudest voice at both extremes. That's the challenge. Yeah.
mm,
Because naturally, if the most negative one is the should we say the loud one, there is a fair to middling chance that the ones that are open that could go either way will go towards the loudest person. Okay. But I was always taught, I'd always remembered in my mind at my days at IF that if you can, the challenge is if you can convert the most negative one in the group, they can be your strongest ally.
yeah.
And I had that in my mind for years. Okay. And it's probably, I would say, only in the past, I would say 10 to 15 years where I started to change and maybe drift more towards the more positive within the group
Hmm.
with the view that they would drag everybody else along with them.
Hmm.
Okay. So I have had experiences of both, right? Um, when you were talking, John, you'd mentioned I was just making a couple of notes, and then I was writing the two words as you said them, and that was shop steward.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm again very much like your good self. I would always say to companies, give me a cross-functional team. Don't worry about the backgrounds. Oh, we've got if they're difficult, get them involved.
Yeah.
Okay, for exactly the reasons that you said, because you
Hmm.
don't know the reasons why other people within the group have that perception of that individual.
Mm.
Okay, and I've always had in the back of my mind is it was more of a challenge for me to say, for me to find out what flicks the switch.
Yeah.
Because as a, if you're a leader of people or a manager of people, that's part, or a team leader, that's part of your job is to know your people. You're not blessed with being able to choose directly who you want to with you. You've got the team, and that's the best. You've got to make the best out of the team you've got.
Hmm.
Okay. Yes, there's elements where you can change, but in the short term, generally you've got what you've got. Okay. And I'm a great believer that nobody comes into work to do a bad job.
Hmm.
I think if you can find out, going back to your point, Russ, if there's an opportunity where that individual who has been perceived as the difficult child, the problem child, for example, and get to know them and understand why they may have that label, and get to know them and earn their trust and build that relationship. I think there's a great way you can turn around, and you're absolutely right, Russ. They can be your strongest ally.
Yeah.
Um, But on the flip side, it's then that balance, going back to your point, John, is how much time as a manager have you got to invest in that individual before you have to say enough's enough. If you can't, I remember the other phrase that people said, if
Yeah.
you can't change the people, change the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's some of that, Al, I think, will come down to the degree of collateral damage that is being done while you're
Exactly
persevering.
right. Exactly right. So if you take John's point earlier on about the masterclass, that was quite a prescribed time, wasn't it? It was over 3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
The reality is invariably you've got longer than that because if you're in the muck and bullets of it all and you're managing those people, it's a decision you've got to make. All right. Um, but in the masterclass, you've got a very prescribed amount of time to try and get the best out of the whole group. And I
Mm.
think that's part and parcel of why we did so well in that, because actually that's quite an intensive thing to do to try and still get a result at the end of it.
Mhm.
That the business understands and feels that they've still received value for what we've
Yeah.
done, what we've done with them. But also you've had a cross-functional team, and they're not all perfect.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not all the shining light. They're not
No.
all
No.
the class A students, so to speak. So for me, and also, if you I suppose if I look back in terms of why I changed the opposite way, I suppose because obviously with going back into industry myself and being in fairly senior roles, all right, I've said to myself, my head's on the chopping block, and I suppose I've changed and thought, well, actually, look, I'm going to give people a chance, but ultimately, if I don't, if I don't get some results here, I'm going to be going myself.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you go, but you mentioned your point before, Russ, about team leaders. Team leaders, their managers, their managers. I would imagine that they all, to a greater or lesser extent, have that internal dilemma going on in their
Mm.
minds every single day.
Mm.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah,
suppose
because
that they want
yeah,
to get the
because
best out of their teams, don't they? But it's having the
yeah,
skills to be able to know how to get the best out of them.
and most of the time, most businesses aren't doing masterclasses regularly because they're just trying to do lean as a part of daily business
Exactly
and
right.
not
Exactly
not
fitting
doing
it
this
in
a
with the
lot.
day to day, isn't it? Exactly. Exactly.
And is the person who appears to be negative. I'm going to say they're presenting as negative, but there might actually be a good point behind it.
Yeah.
And there's always history.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Is they um There'll be a product of the environment as well to a point. There'll
Exactly. And the
be
culture within the business. It could actually be the leaders in the business
yeah.
that are
It could be,
driving
couldn't
that person to feel that way. Yeah. Hmm.
so therefore practically how do we know if it's the way that person is wired and that wiring is harder to change or they've just been in a certain environment for a while?
Really good point. So I was going to come to that. I was going to come to that. So basically, and you mentioned it before, Ross, about, is it, as an example, when you have a break, do you try and, a bit of extracurricular time, just try and get to know them. And you can sense it through conversation,
Mhm.
discussion, that sort of thing. But I said to you before about what really flicks their switch. So things I've tried in the past is, um, me, I try to make things a little bit, it's about enjoying what you do. Okay, without messing about too much, ultimately safely, but enjoy what you do. But is basically, you've used a phrase in the past about fix what bugs you,
Mm,
right?
yes, absolutely.
So that particular person,
2 second lean.
find out what happened, why they're bugged.
Yeah.
Let's go to their work area and find
Yeah,
why they feel that way. Is it, assuming this is a work thing?
Mm.
Let's try and fix that for them.
yeah.
And then let's see how they change.
Yeah.
And if they change for the better, that's what I would then see from afar is the green shoots of opportunity.
Yes, or yes,
Yeah,
even if they come alive and show you some glimpses while they're showing you
there's a
their
chance,
gemba,
isn't there? There's a
there's a
chance
chance.
there. Yeah. Whereas if you do it and you've invested the time not only in that individual, but actually you've got this team, the rest of the team that don't realize why you're doing what you're doing, right? But you're actually investing their time in fixing the problem child's problem.
Yeah.
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 And if they then don't show those green signs, then there comes a point where that investment you have to make. I think you have to make that decision.
Mhm.
Right, I've done the best I can with the time I've got. Now I might do a change of tack and then move more towards the more
Yeah.
positive people, and hopefully that then drags them along.
Yeah. If you turn into a coach and mentor for the most resistant person,
Mm,
then you can end up neglecting the rest or the
exactly
bigger
right.
project.
And it's that
And
balance,
then
isn't it, John?
that's not an economic or efficient way of moving forward. It's not morally right either, because you're
Mm,
ignoring people who are probably quite keen and interested and probably putting them off.
mhm,
But I think at surface level, I think we talked about, why are these people resistant?
mhm.
At surface level, when you dig in, the most common one is, oh, they'll never do that for us, or they'll never follow through on this, or
Yeah.
they'll never buy that. So there's this,
By they, do you mean the management team?
yeah,
Management team
Yeah.
generally, yeah.
that's what generally they mean. Although the individuals will typically struggle if forced to say, give me a name. Who?
Yeah.
They'll struggle because A, there isn't one because it's an imagined scenario,
Mhm.
or B, they don't want to share because it's actually about a personality thing between them and the individual.
Or see,
That's the most common thing.
or see, John, they are being stymied by the system. It's just being done
Yeah.
stealthily.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
they've kind of potentially been taught that none of this matters by the environment they're in because they have tried stuff before. So that's where you've got occasionally got to do a bit of a breakthrough thing where you've got to take a
Yeah.
nugget of change that you're almost waiting for them to say they'll never do that.
Yeah.
And that's when you've got to go back behind the scenes maybe and go, look, I'm going to be asking you, the managers, to do X. And they might say,
Yeah.
well, that won't give us any benefit. The
Yeah.
benefit it's going to give is it might bring your team back on board.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely right.
when I ask you for it, it's a little bit of stage management. Say why and then say yes.
Yeah.
And if I give you a decent why, follow through or you have killed
Yeah. There's no
improvement
point carrying
forever
on.
with this because you've
Yeah.
literally proved their point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Just about
one
It's
more
funny, John.
gentle way of going.
It's funny, John. I do something similar with team leaders. Team leaders who struggle to get ideas out of their team.
Mm,
It's a tumbleweed in silence. And I say to them, look, if it's because they don't believe anything's going to happen, have a very honest, open conversation and say, I know in the past we've been let down. I've let you down, and we
mm,
just haven't got stuff done. How about we try raise one, fix one? So if between you come up with one thing that bothers you, I don't want any more. And if we don't manage to get that sorted, we get that sorted, then I'll leave you be for a bit.
yeah,
Um, and
Yeah.
then raise one, fix one. It goes away from persuading, trying to make a compelling, articulate, silver tongue case
yeah.
to look, let's just see what happens.
But just got to
And
do heavy
then
lifting. Yeah.
but dragons lay that path as well because if you create a dependency culture of we raised one, he fixed it, here, have all this lot, and you have to be careful to then say, okay, great, we've now got three things done. This time, how about you raise one for me to think about with the management team, and you raise one that you as a team think about. Sketch something up for me
Yeah.
because everybody's got to have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it comes
Yeah.
it comes back to all of this is a socio-technical system. A factory is a socio-technical
Yeah.
system.
Mhm. Yeah.
You cannot technically lean your way to a lean enterprise. It just doesn't work.
No.
And it starts with us looking in the mirror. And if somebody's being negative, we have to say, hang on, am I the problem here?
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm,
Am I misdiagnosing? Am I getting their backup? Am
mhm.
I doing some horseshit program here that just doesn't help?
Yeah.
And go into their physical Gemba with them is great. Go into their mental Gemba with them is even better.
Mm.
Yeah. You said before, John, you mentioned about just very quickly about the shop stewards. I don't know whether you guys agree or disagree with this. I think that's less of a problem nowadays,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
100%.
certainly way back when, in terms of choice of team, yeah, give me the most problematic. And for God's sake, make sure if you've got a strong union membership in your factory,
Mm.
I want your shop steward on the team.
Yeah.
Okay. Purely, and you guys know, purely and simply because you want to give it every opportunity to show they just think that this lean thing is about getting rid of heads.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That was the perception.
Yeah.
And it's really, really important where they understand, or where we try and allow them to understand, shall I say, that it's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
I've always asked for people in the finance team.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fresh
Yeah.
eyes plus
Yeah.
the nugget of you do
Well,
that, it saves the company this that they
it,
can conjure.
you got it. So
Takes a
my bag. So, fundamentally, part of the reason why we do what we do and we struggle with sustaining stuff is because of traditional cost accounting methods, because
Mhm.
we think too siloed. Okay.
That's a
And
separate
it's
episode.
sowing the seed with a finance, young, fresh, wanting to learn and say, actually, guys, when you're looking at the numbers, try and look at the numbers differently. Look at it from a systemic perspective, not a silo perspective.
Yeah. A
Stop
finance
thinking
team
unit
member
cost.
or
Yeah.
a finance department can be the best thing for
Mm.
any improvement project. But if they're not brought in and they are a bit of a silo mentality because of the way that traditional accounting and everything else is done, they're almost fighting against what you're
Yeah.
doing.
The tide. They're
It
fighting
might
against
not
the tide.
seem obvious, but it really is in terms of inventory reduction, for instance. You know, I
Mm.
want to get rid of all the crap that you're never going to use. Don't do that. You've devalued
Yeah,
the company.
that's right.
Have
Absorption cost.
I?
The
Have I?
balance sheet
Like, if I
hit,
put this in a
standard
skip,
cost.
has money come out of your bank account? No, but on paper, amortizations. No, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
So
you know
Quite
what?
right.
I'm not
it
going to
can
name
work both
names.
ways.
I'm not going to name names. I'm going to dive very, very slightly. But I know Russell will know will know of this particular person far more than I do. He's met him. I haven't.
Right,
Okay. And um, let's just say I put a comment on one of his posts a few weeks ago,
right.
which I'm still waiting for a response on.
You're narrowing it
Okay.
down. I'll be able to find out who you are.
Okay. Yeah, you'll be fine now. And what I asked was what, and I was curious. It wasn't to pick him up. I was just purely curious on what his FD said,
Mm,
because he said he ripped out nearly 700,000. I don't know if it was pounds or euros worth of inventory in a
mm,
relatively few weeks
Mm.
or few months.
mm.
And I said, what did your FD think about that in terms of the balance sheet?
It's irrelevant, Albie, because he owns a business.
Say again? No,
It's
but
irrelevant
well,
because he
he'll
owns a
still have
business.
but he'll still have
Oh,
somebody within finance that will have a
he
comment or an
of
opinion
course,
around it, is what I mean.
Mm.
Yeah.
of course, yeah, but if you own the train set, then it's an easier conversation
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
have,
yeah, yeah,
I'd
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
But
yeah,
I was
if
because it's the financial mindset and how that dialogue and that conversation went. I was more curious about. Yeah.
well, having said that, we've had this conversation before, but I think I was the first non-engineer to blag my way into IF. I'm certain of this at MC5, and my degree was in finance, and then I went straight into manufacturing because I hated finance, found it tedious. But I maintain to this day that financial background, geez, that's been handy for me.
Yeah.
Always
Mm.
linking everything to ROI, net present value, ROA, how is this moving the levers? And
Yeah.
as long as you don't, as long as you understand the flaws and the nonsense that is within standard costing and absorption rates and that kind of stuff, as long as you grasp that, but a good grasp of cash flow, balance sheet, profit and loss is really,
Mm.
really helpful.
Mm.
We had an episode a couple back, didn't we, where we talked about, I think it was Russell's phrase, things that grind our gears or hills we die on and that sort of
Yeah, it's
stuff.
the
Yeah, yeah,
smallest
yeah.
thing you die on.
Oh, one of them for me is being told, oh, well, we have to sweat the assets.
Yeah.
What the hell is that about? And it's to do with finance and amortization and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. But you know, you've got a machine and you decide to turn it on, don't turn it off, whether you need it or not. Make washers with it because otherwise, you know, it's going to ruin the accounts. What the hell? You're burning electricity, you're wearing your machine out, doing stuff you don't want. Yeah, 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 but for every hour it does, it's making money. No, it's not.
If you can
That
sell it,
is
my friend, if you can
just
sell it, John, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's a nonsense phrase.
Mm.
To close us off, can I make a couple of quick points? Um, I think unbridled optimism. You don't want just people who are bang up for anything because that's
Yeah,
lemmings going over a cliff. You
yeah,
want some healthy challenge.
yeah,
yeah.
Because healthy challenge keeps you sharp and makes sure that you're not making poor decisions. It's that assumption. You've got to check the assumption that you're asking for the right thing, the right direction.
Yeah.
And secondly, all of us, and I try to remember this a lot. Um, we sometimes don't see people as people because we only ever see them in their work environment. We don't see them
Mm,
in their
mm,
natural environment. Everybody has problems outside of work, whether it's it's an addiction, whether they've got a child who's struggling, whether they've got elderly parents with dementia, whether they've got money worries.
Mm.
And so there is some point at which there is a risk of writing off somebody as being negative who is just going through a tough period in their life. So I think my final point on this would be remember these are people, and however your mechanism does this in a respectful way that doesn't invade people's privacy, it's see if there's anything else that's bothering them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Beautifully
Is my
put. I don't think either of
absolutely.
us should try and top that, Al.
No, absolutely. It's good.
So
and an email address today. Do you want that?
let's hear where people should be sending their comments to, Russ.
Okay, so it's someone get that Olbus stick off Alan before he overdoses at gmail.com. It's a long one, but we'll answer it.
Oh, say it
Yeah.
again, Ross.
And 5 pence of every call will go to charities related to Albus oil addiction. Al, where can people send their comments, questions, and suggestions?
If they would like to do it by email, it's therestislean@gmail.com.
Fantastic. And if you're watching on YouTube, then just drop your comments, questions, anything you like in the area below this video, marked up comments. And we read every single one. And most people who comment get some sort of feedback from us direct.
Use.
And a lot of it ends up in our heads and coming out of our mouths, and we discuss. So I think that's probably enough for today. And if we haven't already seen you by then, maybe we'll see you on another episode or at SubCon 2026. Get over there. We'll be there for both of the days this year. NEC, June there, Alan?
3rd and 4th of
3rd and 4th. Righto, folks. Been lovely. See ya.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Stay safe. Bye.